Hey, what's up guys, TechTine here, and I'm back again with a brand new video. So before I begin, I just want to thank you all so much for watching, and I appreciate your guys' support lately. You guys have been really incredible. If you're new to the channel, don't be a stranger, make sure you subscribe. Also make sure you leave a thumbs up if you found this video useful or you liked it. With that being said, today I'm going to be doing my promised 2024 Moto Razr camera review. So this device has a substantial upgrade in the camera department from the previous generation, which you may think to yourself that that's a good thing, which it is obviously. However, it's not really high bar to clear, because last year's generations of the kind of budget Moto Razr family, the camera was just not all that. So with that being said, here are the camera specs that you will get with this phone. So you get a dual camera setup with your main sensor being a 50 megapixel f1.7 aperture, and does support optical image stabilization, and you also get a 13 megapixel f2.2 120 degree field of view wide angle sensor. As far as the camera interface itself, it's just what you would expect from Motorola. Simple, straight to the point. Literally, it doesn't get any simpler than that. So you have on one side your options to take pictures, another option to switch between your main sensor, your kind of wide angle, and this kind of 2x digital zoom. Now, one of the gripes that I do have about this kind of camera system, and I do have to blame the software more than anything, is that it's kind of slow when switching between the main sensor and the wide angle. Not as fast as I would necessarily like it to be. And again, it does also shoot some really nice video, which we will also take a look at. And you do have the ability to as well switch between your different modes, your portrait, your video, and even it does have a pro mode that allows you to control over a lot of these settings, like the white balance, your exposure, your ISO levels, your focusing levels, things of that nature, your shutter speed. So you do have some really nice controls in the kind of pro camera department. Now, I do have to take a break from the camera review to speak about this device here. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the VOLTME 240 watt charging station. It does come with kind of a 4 feet USB-C to USB-C cable. You also get your kind of wall adapter that plugs into the charging station. And the charging station itself is really nice and sits kind of perfectly in any desk scenario. It does have 6 ports, where your main port does support up to 140 watt of really stupid fast charging. So I use that port to charge kind of my laptop, and the whole total support is 240 watt. And you'll get your first, like I said, first USB-C cables support up to 140 watt. Your other USB-C and USB 3 cables, they support up to 100 watt of quick charging. So you have a total of 4 USB-C ports and 2 USB 3 ports. And it's priced really reasonably, and I use it to charge all my devices, from my Moto Razr to my iPhone 12 Pro, as well as my main editing machine, which is the 14-inch MacBook Pro. So if you're interested in buying this, I will leave it in the link description below. Again, they did not pay me to kind of say these things. Alright, so let's go ahead and revert back, and I want to talk about the picture quality first before we jump into the video capability of this phone. Like I mentioned in the beginning, this phone does have a substantial upgrade in image quality. However, it does have its shortcomings, and its biggest shortcoming, honestly, is in its image processing. So by default, this phone does take 12 megapixel shots. You can change them to 50 megapixel. There's a lot of over sharpening that happens here, in addition to kind of lack of contrast that, sometimes can kill the picture. And again, the over sharpening in some scenarios is fine. In other scenarios, is just, it looks too artificial, it doesn't look as good. The kind of, in sunset scenarios, you can kind of tell that the whole color palette of the picture changes. So the colors are not as natural. It gives you this kind of yellowish vibe, and the kind of dynamic range and, the proper exposure, things of that nature, it's fine for the most part. Again, in some scenarios where the sunset hits and the kind of, as you can see here, the wall is kind of orange, it's fine, it's decent, it doesn't look half bad. It is still missing contrast, and the image processing on here is not the best. So the wide angle sensor does lose a lot of detail. However, it still is a much more usable kind of camera than a telephoto lens, in my opinion. The bokeh effect on here is more than decent. In, again, this scenario here, there's not a lot of sharpening going on, which is good. And again, in taking pictures where you have multiple subjects with more than just one color, this camera holds its own. So the color on this camera, for the most part, is decent and definitely much better than the previous generation. Even the dynamic range in some scenarios is really good. And taking pictures of kind of buildings and walls where they have kind of certain color palette and it doesn't really mix a lot of colors in there, it's actually pretty good. There's not a lot of sharpening that happens here, and this is the thing too. I feel like this camera is just not as consistent as I would like it to be. Like I said, there are some areas that it does do a lot of kind of over sharpening that ruins the picture. In other scenarios, it does not. In other scenarios, it gives you a proper exposed picture. In this scenario, for example, it's not as properly exposed, it's slightly overexposed, but for the most part, it takes some really decent pictures that I think a lot of people will find more than acceptable. In kind of indoor conditions, again, back to the whole image processing situation, because of its not so good image processing power, the artificial light does take a hit as far as, again, over sharpening. It doesn't look as good as natural light, even though in general it's never going to look as good as natural light. But because of the image processing situation that goes on here, it's okay, it's fine, it's not going to be the best thing in the world. So if we switch the scenario to the nightlife of the Moto Razr 2024, you get that this phone will, one, it does have like this automatic night mode that does decent. There's still going to be a lot of noise level, and as soon as you switch to that wide angle sensor, you can tell how trash the picture becomes. But with the main sensor, it's okay. That's all I can say for that. And now let's talk a little bit about the selfie camera, which the selfie camera on here is actually surprisingly well. So it takes the 32 megapixel selfie pictures, and the detail, the skin tones look pretty decent and pretty nice on here. The pictures for the most part can look a little bit better than the main sensor. As far as the video capability of this phone, so it does support video capability of up to 4K 30 frames per second, and you can shoot 1080p at 30 or 60 frames per second. It does support the gyro electronic image stabilization, and in some scenarios where you're shooting in 1080p, you can switch between the main sensor and the wide angle sensor. In other scenarios where you're shooting in 4K, it also can switch between the main sensor and the wide angle sensor. So go ahead and take a look at the sample video. I did two sample videos, one where it shows the kind of main sensor and the wide angle. The other scenario shows kind of this selfie camera. So go ahead and take a look at them, and we'll come back and kind of some final words. Hey, what's up guys, TechTine here, and this is your 4K sample of the 2024 Moto Razr, which is Motorola's kind of budget flip device. And from what I see here is that everything seems to be slightly blown out, but so far it seems decent. As far as the stabilization, I would have to go back and take a look at it myself when I upload it to my computer. But yeah, this is how this 4K video looks like. And the cool thing is, during 4K you can also switch between your main and your wide angle sensor, because the wide angle also can shoot in 4K. Yeah, that's... Now it does take a little second and it does lag a little bit, but overall, not too shabby. Alright, hey, what's up guys, TechTine here, and this is your front-facing camera kind of video capability, and the sun is nice and out, it's beautiful outside, and yeah, this is how it would look like. I think it looks pretty decent, so you let me know. There's slight shutter lag here and there, but not too shabby. So the video capability on this phone also received a respectable upgrade, as you guys saw. So it takes some decent video for the most part. I do have to complain a little bit about the microphone that is installed in these phones. It's not really the greatest. It does have a lot of echo, and just it's not really all that good. So here's my conclusion when it comes to the overall camera experience of the 2024 Moto Razr. Obviously, when you're getting this phone, for the most part, you're not really getting it for the camera experience. But I do have to say that, again, for the most part, it does well. It gives you wide angle sensor. It shoots decent video. It shoots decent selfie cameras. It shoots decent pictures. So I really can't judge it too harshly, because like I said, it's not really meant for the camera experience. However, it does take some respectable pictures and videos for the most part. Now the biggest thing is this. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. How do you feel about this camera on the flip devices? Is it good? Is it not that good? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Let me know in the comments below, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching.